Hello everybody and welcome to Macro Talk 2. It is Thursday, the 4th of September, and today we are talking about coins, coin photography to be precise. And this is something I've been meaning to do for a good long while. I'm going to do 3 live streams on the subject. The first one today is on the fundamentals. The second one is going to be on workflow and special challenges. And the third one, we're going to be looking at some of the specialized advanced techniques they use. And we're going to start out today talking about coin photographers first, and what's so special about coin photography. And I'm going to dispel a couple of myths, I think. And after that, we're going to get into the basic fundamentals of what's important if you're photographing coins. I want to take away some of the mystery in case you are interested in giving it a try. This Saturday coming up, after stack number 30. 30 after stacks, if you can believe it. It's post-processing for macro photographers, or editing for macro photographers. It's fun, it's free, and it's at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning until 11:30 or thereabouts. The invitation is in my blog post over on my website, www.alanwallsphotography.com/blog/ what did I call it? I can't remember. Yeah, it'll be the most recent blog post, though, the first one you see. If you are interested in a microscope focus block conversion, that is one of those high precision focus rails that I make out of microscopes, or if you're interested in getting a crystal viewer, one of my polarizing crystal viewers, please let me know by leaving a note in the Walls app, even if you have let me know before. The reason is I'm getting ready to order the supplies and everything that I need, and if you leave me your name, I will send you a price list and an order sheet to fill out, so that we can get things going. It's been a couple of weeks since I've been making those things, so I'm ready to get started again. So go over to the Walls app, leave me your name and your email address, and I will get right back to you. Okay, coming up soon, as in next week, I'm going to do a live stream on HDR. That's the high definition photography in macro photography. It's it's controversial, it's interesting, and we're going to talk about that on probably Tuesday, maybe Thursday, not sure just yet. Lester Lefkowitz is going to be my special guest at the Presume next Saturday, and that is on the the 12th, 13th, something like that, of September. And he's going to be coming to talk to us about Lightroom and really whatever else you want him to talk about. He's agreed to stick around and answer any questions you have. This is a special event that is for Patreon folks only. So if you've ever thought about maybe supporting what I do, it would be most appreciated, and this would be a good time to do it, because then you could come to the thing on Saturday and get to meet Lester and talk with him. He's a famous guy and a great photographer. It's going to be fun. Okay, so one thing that's totally unrelated to anything. I got a call from my good friend Mike Canfra from California, who told me that I needed to drop what I was doing and go watch a video on YouTube, which I did. It was the interview that Rick Beato did with Dave Gilmour in England last week, and it's a YouTube video now. If you've ever been into Pink Floyd, ever in your life, you need to watch this video. Such a cool video. Fantastic. Thank you, Mike, for suggesting that. So, coin photography. As many of you know, I'm a retired surgeon, and when I think of coin photographers, I can't help thinking about neurosurgeons, because they give the same vibe. They certainly do something that's very interesting and quite difficult, but it's really no more difficult than what the rest of us are doing. It's just it's different, and that's what we're going to be talking about. First off, is I want to go through some of the some of the things that coin photographers will tell you, and I'm not just making this up. I have spoken to half a dozen coin photographers in the last week and asked them, what is it about coin photography that makes it so much harder than what we do, macro photography? And I got the following few answers, and I'm going to talk about each of them and then shoot them out of the water. But I would say one thing. I know one guy who is probably the uber coin photographer, and normally I would have called him and asked him, but he's in Europe on holiday, and I didn't want to call him there. So I haven't gone to the source to see if he would agree with what I was told. But here are some of the common claims that I hear about coin photography and why I think that we as macro photographers are eminently capable of managing that. So the first one that pops up always is lighting coins is uniquely difficult. It's especially difficult to get light on a coin to photograph it. And yeah, do you believe that? I'm not sure I believe that. Controlling specular highlights is kind of what we do. It's what macro photography ultimately is all about. It's no different than photographing a tiger beetle or any shiny iridescent insect, or for that matter, a watch or a piece of jewelry, which we also photograph. We use exactly the same kit of tools. We use diffusion primarily and polarization. We use side lighting. And all the things that we do to avoid ugly specular highlights, you have to do with coins, and that's what they do. So, yeah, it's just try photographing, if you're a coin photographer, try photographing a metallic green scarab beetle straight on from his back, kind of a biology textbook photograph. And you'll realize that, yeah, it's a coin, just in the shape of a beetle. The second claim I hear a lot is depth of field is especially problematic when you're photographing coins. I don't believe that one either. Depth of field is problematic when you're shooting anything at high magnification because it's so shallow. That's kind of the nature of the beast. When you're in that close, the depth of field is always shallow. And the fact that occasionally you will focus stack images of coins, you will focus stack to get an image of a coin, understood. We do that all the time. We focus stack almost everything we photograph, whether we're in the field or in the studio. So while it's definitely an important part of what you do, it's not unique. And yeah, it's worth remembering that a coin, as difficult as it is really no harder than the head of a housefly, which is a lot thicker than a coin and has a lot more layers to worry about. Third one is coin color accuracy is a special burden. It's especially difficult to get the colors exactly right. Yes, it's true, and I understand that coin collectors especially are very, very particular about color and very specific about how color is shown in their photography. And it is something that needs special attention. But let me tell you, I photograph artwork for people, and if you think it's hard to get the color of a silver coin accurate, try doing it when you've got the whole spectrum in front of you, and you've got to get all the colors right, and the mix and the blend and the feel of the whole painting. There are lots of other things. I did quite a bit of product photography. I'm actually going to show you a few photographs while I'm talking about this, because I think they're useful. This is one of the pieces of equipment we both use, of course. This is vital for focus stacking, is to have a good rail to use. In this case, a stack shot. Doesn't really matter. We both use the same things. And that, believe it or not, is a coin. I'll get more into how coins are positioned and posed for the various different uses, but like I'm arguing here, it's really no different than photographing this is a print head from a color printer, and believe me, that's got a lot of detail in it that is very hard to light. So we're in the same boat. Looking for some of my color related ones. Yeah, we all use the same equipment too. Cameras, focus rails, lights, same old deal. It's macro photography after all. And the color issue is as important in this photograph as it is in any coin photograph. I mean, the person who's selling this watch needs it to be exactly correct. And I completely understand that. So the fourth thing that coin photographers claim is that you have to create absolutely flawless surface detail. Well, of course you do. It's a coin. That's all there is. Surface detail. I mean, that's what it's all about. You're not photographing a copper disc. You're photographing a coin. And I understand that, absolutely. But I also understand that grains of pollen and feathers and diatoms all have surface texture that's really important. It's what's interesting about the subject. So, it's important that you get your coin scratches and what have you accurate, and it's important that you get what's written on the coin accurate, and you get the relief and everything. But it's exactly the same for us. Then we have to go about getting it exactly the same way. Coins must be perfectly presented, no excuses. That was the last one I heard. Every niche in photography has its own set of uncompromising standards, and scientific imaging is one of those. I have a friend who shoots insects for textbooks. That's what he does. That's all he does. He set up a special rig for it, and the appendages have to be perfect. There can't be a spot of dust on it. Everything has to be perfect, and it is absolutely no different than what you guys are trying to achieve. A photograph that doesn't show the insect accurately and clearly is not one that he's going to accept, just like you wouldn't accept a coin that had a smudge on it. So we're in the same boat. We're all about using the same equipment, the same high standards, the same challenging subjects, and in many cases, subjects that are, I think, considerably more challenging. Just look at Bud Perrett's pictures of diatoms, where he's showing the individual ridges of structure on a diatom that's 2 million years old. That's not easy, and I would argue it's on a par with getting all the details out of a coin. So, what are the fundamentals? That's all I'm going to say about that. By the way, I'm not being a problem about this. I just think that what we do is difficult too, and I really want you to take home the message that if you want to photograph coins, go ahead and photograph them. You've already got the skills. If you can photograph insects, you can learn how to photograph coins. So what are the basics? What are the things that we need to talk about that are most important to be successful in photographing coins that are accurate, full of detail, well lit, pleasant to look at, and that will meet your requirements as far as having the photograph accepted by a collector or whatever you're doing with it? The first is lighting. As it is with almost any kind of photography, it's the most critical thing that you have to get right. It is, after all, what makes you a photograph. If you don't have light and it's not the right kind, then it's not going to be a good picture. Your camera and lens. This would be an absolutely excellent choice of camera and lens, but I'll talk about some specifics about what these guys are looking for and why. Then some stacking considerations. What do you have to take into account when you're stacking coins? Not stacking coins, when you're focus stacking pictures of coins. Color calibration and how they manage it as opposed to how we manage it. Not that it's that much different. And then an important part of coin photography is the presentation of the photograph, how you take the image and present it in a way that is going to satisfy the folks who are looking at them. Okay, so the thing to remember is, I think, that macro photography is a big field. It's probably the most interesting and exciting photographic field there is. We have more stuff that's never been photographed than stuff that already has been. And it's just as important as photographing rare coins. I recognize that coin photographers are an important documentarian of our history. And photographing coins is an important part of that. But so is what we do, and don't be afraid to give it a try. I think that you might rather enjoy it. It's technical for sure, but it's fun. Okay, so let's talk about lighting. Typically, you'll find that a lot of coin photographers, not all, but most of them that I know, prefer to shoot in a vertical orientation, which makes perfect sense when your subjects are mostly flat and round discs. It makes framing the photograph, I think, probably a bit easier, and it keeps your plane of focus fairly perpendicular to your to the axis of light. So vertical positioning of the camera and vertical lighting is very often used. Now, there are all kinds of different ways that coins can be lit. There is a school of thought that one of the most effective ways to show all the detail in the coin is to use axial light, using a beam splitter. That's where you shine light, usually from the side, to a mirror that will direct it downward, and the mirror is only partly opaque, so you can see through it with your camera system or your microscope, so that the light is actually traveling in the same direction you're looking, and it's getting bounced right back up into your eye or your camera. That is fairly popular, more of a documentary kind of lighting, because it tends to produce very even lighting with a lot of shadowless illumination. So you see every detail on the coin, but relatively little in the way of shadow or relief. It can emphasize a flat color, but it kind of mutes some of the detail, and it doesn't make for a very pretty picture. But there are certainly times that it's used. More commonly, I think most coin photographers would use a diffused off-axis lighting, the kind of thing that we would generally go to first for photographing insects or any other macro subjects, mainly with 1 or 2 or 3 or even 8 lights at some angle out from the camera, pointing in at the subject, and with some diffusion. Possibly, the full Monty like we would do with a couple of different layers of diffusion, but using either flash or continuous lighting with LEDs, the effect is going to be much the same. If you're using good quality LEDs, not a whole lot of difference from flash. Flash has its own problems and concerns, but they control those issues, the specular issues, the same way we do. So using diffusion on your continuous lights or your flash is a must, and that will tend to bring out a lot more of the relief or the surface art on the coin much better. It will give you some shadows. Not overpowering, but it'll give you more of a sense of relief in the coin. Another popular thing that we also use, though we tend to use it less for insect photography and more for things like crystal photography, is when we use cross-polarization. That is where we find a way to polarize the light source, make sure that the light is all oriented in the waves of light are oriented in the same direction, and then use another polarizer on our camera lens or our microscope in order to eliminate some portion of the reflections that were causing problems. It's a great way to get rid of almost all of the specular highlights in a photograph. It can be a little bit aggressive for some photographers. I know a lot of coin guys don't particularly like it, although they'll use it when they have to, with like brand new coins that have just been minted, silvery coins that are like mirrors. Then it's a very useful tool to have. Another tool that we use a little bit less, except those of us who like to photograph things like butterfly wings, is bringing light in very shallow, very raking across the subject. This is something I love to do, is get my lights very close to on a plane with the subject and fire the light right across the subject from one side or from both sides. It's very useful for photographing subtle things in the surface of the coin, like cracks that result from a broken die, that type of thing, and it'll show up defects like or artifacts like doubling and other surface features that you really want to emphasize. So low raking light, but remember that still needs to be diffused. Just because you're taking the light in very, very shallow, I still wouldn't use a bare light for it. So these are very much the same tactics we would use, and in very much the same way for the same type of subjects. Like that print head I showed you just a moment ago is an example of something that requires raking light to reveal all of its detail, and that's how I shot that, even though it was through the microscope. Let me show you a few of these other pictures. This is not a typical setup for a coin photograph, but it does show the lighting is quite effective, and you can see from the coins that are stacked up in the back that there are no real shadows to be seen on the surface that they're shooting on, which makes you think that the light is coming in fairly axial. But you've got lots and lots of detail in the surface of the coin. Very pretty, actually. That's a half crown. That's 2.5 shillings. For those of you who are as old as I am, that's English money. When I was 3 years old, that coin was minted. Anyway, there are lots and lots of different ways to photograph coins and different ways to light them, and different lenses to use. And we're going to talk now about what those lenses and cameras are. When it comes to cameras, it doesn't make any difference. If you've got a good camera, if you're going to be doing a lot of focus stacking of coins, I would certainly suggest using a mirrorless camera. But if you've got any decent camera, then you'll be fine. And the sensor size is probably not important if you're using standard macro lenses or even low power objectives. You'll be fine with even a crop frame camera. So I wouldn't worry too much about the camera or the features that it has. I'd spend much more time looking at lenses and making sure you were picking the right one. Probably your best bet, if you're starting out, is to pick a macro lens, a good macro lens preferably. A macro lens is going to give you a flat field, which is really important so that your coin architecture isn't shifted. You don't want strange bowing or bending of lines at the edges of your coin. So you want a flat lens, and you don't need a long focal length. There's no reason to. A workhorse like the old micro Nikkor 55 millimeter, absolutely spectacularly sharp little lens, very inexpensive. You can still buy them for $100 used, but they're wonderful for coin photography. They're really pretty flat. They're great to use up close, and you can have a fairly compact setup with that. One of the things you'll see a lot, and in fact I will frequently go to the coin photography literature to read about enlarger lenses, to learn about new lenses that come out, or old lenses that are of interest to me, because this is a workhorse for the coin photographer. And I've got some pictures actually of the lenses that I use. That's one of them. This is actually the Nikkor 50mm f2.8N. It's the middle bit there, and it's on a bellows with a Nikon camera body on the right, and just a lens hood fashioned out of a few bits and pieces of step-up rings on the left-hand side. But this is a particularly fantastic lens for coin photography because it is incredibly flat. It's also wonderfully sharp, and has very low aberrations, very little chromatic aberration at the kind of apertures you'd be using it at, which would be hopefully around 5.6. So other lenses that would be popular with the coin guys are things like the Rodagon, the APO Companon, and of course printing Nikors. I mean, I know a lot of coin guys that have printing Nikors. I don't have one. That's a pen. I'm not sure how it got in there. Oh, I think it was to show that we also photograph small shiny things. Yeah, like that. Coin photography, by the way, I think coin photographers will admit that their specialty includes things that aren't actually coins, like ingots of metal or medals and that type of thing. I don't know if it includes paper money, though. Probably not. Probably not. So, yeah, one of the challenges in coin photography is trying to photograph them in their protective cases. I've had to do that a few times, and that does make it very difficult. But I wasn't trusted to open the case, so there you go. These are in protective cases, and you can see why it would be difficult to shoot them. It would be hard to shoot a ladybird in one of those boxes too. So I'm not sure if our coin friends would ever need a microscope objective with this much magnification. Possibly so for photographing details of a coin. But I have never actually photographed a coin with a microscope objective. The lenses I use, especially the ones that you can vary the magnification on, like the enlarger lenses on a bellows, seem to be all the magnification I need, and certainly all the sharpness and light. Yeah, that's another thing that when we were talking about the fact that color and detail has to be impeccable in coin photography, I was going to show this to show you it has to be in product photography too. And I mean, really, that photograph took me a day to shoot. So we are familiar with the rigors. Oh, it's another one of the same. You've seen that already. These are somewhat artistic photographs of coins. I've got some more practical ones, the kind you'd probably more commonly be shooting if you were a coin collector. These are a little bit artistic with the stacked coins in the background, but it does give you an idea of, if you've never seen a coin before, this is probably fairly helpful. So talking about lenses once again, the enlarger lenses, or the typical enlarger lenses, these are just another pair of the Nikkor 50s. This is an old one. This is a new one. They are probably the first thing I would reach for to photograph a coin, or for that matter, to photograph the traces on a electronic chip, a microchip. The detail on this is amazing, but that was actually using a microscope objective. Now, microscope objectives are, like I mentioned, occasionally used for coin photography, and they would use both finite and infinite objectives, like the lovely little 4x objective that I've raved about for so long. The little AMScope thing that gives you a lovely sharp picture, very little aberration. That would be one you'd use, but also infinity conjugate lenses like the Nikon or the Nikon 10x. What's the name of that thing? CFI plan lens, or any of the Mitutoyos. But again, I think it would be for if you were trying to photograph the details in a stamping, or the details on a mint mark, or the types of things that I suppose errors would be another thing. If you were photographing coins that had errors from the mint, then that would be something you'd want to pull out, would be a microscope objective. But same ones we use, and with exactly the same considerations. We use long working distance objectives, finite, infinite objectives like the Mitutoyos, because they give us room to put light on the subject. And that's exactly the same decision process a coin photographer would make. So, yeah. Copy stands are a piece of equipment that I don't personally use, but I've seen more coin photographers using old enlarger stands than any other group of photographers, really. Give you a nice, consistent, perpendicular alignment, and you don't get any perspective distortions. It's just a straight-on shot. I don't know why we don't use those things more often. I've got a couple of them in this room, actually, but yeah, often don't. So, we basically do all the same things when we're photographing anything else, especially shiny stuff, reflective stuff, crystals, jewelry, all the stuff we've done. I've done dozens of videos on how to tame reflections and how to use cross polarization and all these other techniques to get a good photograph from a shiny subject. And this is the same thing they're dealing with. So what about stacking, focus stacking? How does focus stacking differ for a coin photographer than it does for a bug photographer or a general macro photographer like me? Well, it really doesn't, except that most of the time when you're photographing a coin, even a big coin with a lot going on the surface, it's a very shallow stack. At the kind of magnifications you would be using to fill the frame of the coin, you probably wouldn't be using more than 5, maybe 10, 15 slices to get through all of the detail, the relief on the coin. Of course, I guess for hero shots or presentation shots where you had the coin slightly angled so that you could get a little bit more perspective on it and maybe take a more interesting picture, then you might need a deeper stack, of course. Or you might use a tilt shift lens, would be another possibility. But a lot of the time, depending on your camera settings, you might not even need to stack a coin. I mean, if the coin is fairly flat like this penny is, there's not a whole lot of bumpiness on that. At f8, you could probably get that whole thing in focus without too much trouble, even at the minimum focus distance. So certainly with bigger, higher relief coins, more likely that you'd need it. But I don't know of any coin photographers who routinely need to do stacks of 100 or 200 or 500 photographs. like I routinely tend to do. So it is something also I would point out is a lot of the coin guys that I know don't use automatic rails. They certainly could, but they prefer to advance focus manually, which it's noble. And I did it for many years without any concern. But the fact remains that you have to be on a very stable platform if you're going to do that, because if you're changing focus manually, there's always a chance you're slightly nudging the camera, moving things around that can result in problems in the stacking. But I do know a lot of guys who routinely focus stack, but they do it by hand. Not something that would be very useful for me. I do know coin photographers who have stack shots or Wii macros or even the Novaflex gear, and it's very handy, very effective. Probably spend more time setting it up than you would stacking if you were doing very shallow stacks. But it's a good option, especially if you're doing other types of shot. A problem that a coin photographer would have is getting the same kind of artifact that we get with bugs. Now, you don't have crossing detail with a coin. A coin is, even with relief on it, it's still a flat surface. So you don't get the kind of the kind of troublesome foreground transparency and other issues that are so tricky to deal with. But certainly you can get DMAP halos, and controlling them is going to be only partially possible with your setup. I mean, if you have to shoot the coin straight on, then and you have to stack it, then you may have to deal with halos, and there is usually some patterning or something going on at the edges of the coin that can cause problems if there's if your view of the coin is giving you a view of the drop-off at the edge. That can lead to some other artifacts. But you know, the fact is that the people who would consume coin photographs wouldn't like to see halos around them. Just like the people who consume bug photographs don't like seeing halos on ours. So the principle of stacking is identical, and I would say mercifully straightforward, with the same exact principles applying to avoiding problems. What about color? This is something that you'll hear a lot. What coin photographers often do is use either a gray card or a color target, like the X-Rite or the Data Color one that I have, and they'll use it to calibrate the setup before every shoot, which is, again, noble. I think that there may be a slightly greater urgency to being color accurate with a coin than with a lot of the stuff we shoot. I think when it comes to insects, no insect is going to have an expected color down to the trinomial definition of the color, but a coin will. And accurately representing the color of a coin, I think, is important, and probably more so than anything other than maybe when we're doing product photography or photographing artwork, things like that. But using a color card to set up a white balance before you begin is good. And I don't know a lot of coin photographers that use auto anything, but certainly not auto white balance. Probably the most important thing is for them and for us. I shouldn't say that, should I? It sounds like I'm going along with the thing. But calibrating your monitor is very, very important, because yeah, if you are any way involved in grading coins or evaluating coins, either for their worth or any other reason, authenticity, then you absolutely have to have a monitor that is properly calibrated, and your images need to be coming from a camera that's properly calibrated. So yeah, I understand that might be a bigger issue for those guys. Now, I imagine, and I don't know this for a fact, I asked and didn't get a clear answer, but I would imagine that virtually all coin photographers shoot raw and shoot against a neutral background to give you the most flexibility and the most unconflicting way to view the coin image, and and minimize color casts and all that. That is how I would photograph coins. That's how I have photographed coins. But other than for shots where you have an artistic purpose for taking the photograph, I think that's common practice. But correct me if I'm wrong. If you shoot JPEGs of coins, I'd like to know, though I'd be surprised. There is a thing called cartwheel luster that I've heard coin photographers talk about. It's a radial reflection that comes off of coins that have never been touched, mint coins, and it's a reaction between the lighting and the color. It's kind of like looking at the colors on the surface of an oil patch in water. That doesn't really do it justice. I don't know much about it, and I haven't looked at it. It sounds like some kind of interaction between the light and the surface coating of the coin. But if you know what it is, leave a word in chat and let me know the details of that. I've heard it talked about and seen it written about, but yeah, not much beyond that. And of course, we deal with that kind of color all the time. If you photograph weevils, for example, you're photographing color that's not pigment related. It's coming to the way the light's playing off the crystals in their scales. So how do coin photographers present their work, and why is that important? Well, I think very often, if there's any kind of practical purpose for the photograph, if it's going to be to put a coin in a catalog or to sell it through a service or to send it in for authenticity check or whatever, you'd want to do it against a neutral background, black or mid-gray or white, and whatever would keep the focus on the coin alone. And I think that stands to reason. It's typical to have the coin head up or right side up, squarely framed to the camera, right in the middle of the image, and aligned vertical and horizontal to the center of the frame. I think that is just, especially if you're shooting from above, I imagine that would be a routine. I have a tendency when I'm photographing coins to photograph them at angles to try to bring out details that I'm interested in, but and those photographs are called obliques, or hero shots is a term I use a lot to describe them. It shows characteristics of the coin that you wouldn't see necessarily with a head-on axially lit subject. So if you're photographing coins for fun or to make a pretty picture of one, which is basically the only reason I would do it, then yeah, knock yourself out and go for whatever kind of positioning you need. I've taken coins with people holding them for me. I've taken coins with me holding the coin. There's something nice about having a hand in the picture sometimes. I photographed them in the palm of a hand, on a table, scattered on a table, all kinds of things. Coins are interesting. They tell us a nifty story. In fact, the cover art for this video or this live stream is, I think, a nice way to represent coins, and it's a whole bunch of different nationalities there, but I like the look of that. Cropping and scaling is is pretty critical. You don't want to leave any doubt as to the size and shape of the coin. The collector, for example, would want to see the whole coin flat and in the center of the image, so that there was no possibility of any detail being missed. It's common, or fairly common, I think, to do side-by-side heads and tails composites, where you photograph the front and the back. I was looking for a nice picture of a green beetle that I have, that I did that. I shot a front and a back and then put them in the image together. I see that in coins quite a bit, especially pretty coins. They'll put the heads and tails, or whatever they call it, on that coin side by side, which is nice. It's probably more critical in coin photography than it is in what we do, to be restrained in your use of retouching. I think that it's probably okay to remove little dust particles, loose impediments on the surface, but doing anything at all that would alter the tone of the metal, the color, or especially any blemishes, I would consider that to be misrepresentation of the coin, which certainly does not spill over into most of what we do. If I have a beetle who's missing a foot, unless I'm planning on publishing the photograph in a magazine or entering a competition, I will give it one of its other feet, a copy of it, and I'll slap it on there, or glue a foot back onto it for the photograph. You wouldn't want to do that in coin photography. It's very, very important. I would say even in the artistic kind of photography, that you represent the coin exactly as it is. And we have a lot of our macro photographers have that same ethos when it comes to photographing what they're interested in, and don't really approve of compositing and changing things. And I completely understand that. And it's, it will vary with what you take pictures of. But if most of what you're doing is taking pictures of coins, then you probably are pretty rigid about this, and I understand that. You know what? We are fast approaching not having any time left. I was going to give you a couple of tests that you could do, a couple of lighting scenarios that you could use to see the different effects of the lighting. And I guess we could do that for a couple of minutes before I say hi to everybody, though I really should say hi. Let's see if we've got a couple more pictures we can go through. That's a fantastic setup for coin photography if you want a lot of detail, teeny tiny coins, or you want a lot of detail of a particular area. That's a reversed enlarger lens on some extension tubes on a fairly inexpensive camera. Very effective for that. That's a dime, and that's what I mean by a neutral background where the coin is everything. Now this is lit from the sides so that you do have a little bit of shadow, so you can see clearly the surface relief. And you can see that even though it's a little dime, it still fills up the frame. A couple of examples of an infinity corrected and finite microscope objective that you could use, though the Nikkor CFI plan is probably a little bit too short of a working distance to be very effective for coins. It might be in some circumstances. You're better off probably just with a decent camera and a decent macro lens on a decent manual rail. This would be the kind of go-to setup I would use, I think, for most coins, though I'd probably do it on a table. Another product photography example of something that is, I think, just as difficult to shoot well as a coin. A lot of stuff going on that opal, and a lot of detail on the part that it's set in. I guess that's called the setting. Yeah, I would consider that just as hard to shoot as a coin. And you don't see a whole lot of this kind of more casual coin photography. I don't even know what kind of coin that is, but I found that picture and thought it was an example of an unusual way to show a coin. That's more typically what you'd see. Upright, Argentinian piece of money there. Lovely lighting. I suspect, even though this was probably shot vertically, that the black background is a little bit behind the subject. You don't want to illuminate the black background too much. That's kind of why I like to shoot horizontal, but the principle's the same. That lighting is probably closer to axial than it is scathing, but nice representation of the surface of the coin. That's another example on a slightly less neutral background, but that shows all the dirt on a coin. I'm not sure why you'd want to do that. I'd probably polish the thing first, but there you go. That's why I'm not a coin photographer. That's an insect's foot or their tibia, some part of their leg, but just had to throw that in there because I like insect photographs. We're about out of time, and I did want to say hi to everybody. Just me. Be sure to leave me your contact information in the Walls app, sir, because you mentioned you were interested in something last week, and I'll get back in touch with you. Paul, I'm glad you came. You don't normally come on Thursdays, but you did, and you're here, and we talked about coins. Good to have you here. Chuck, greetings. Joseph, Proof Struck Coins, was that a name I was looking for and couldn't find? Probably. All right. Oh, there's an argument between Joseph and Zeno, and I'm not going to get into that. All City Anarchy. Greetings. You are new to our group. I'm glad you made it, and I hope you'll come back again. We don't always talk about coins, of course. In fact, we virtually never talk about coins, but we did today as a special thing. We normally talk about other macro subjects, and lots of them. I was going to ask about paper money because I've got a picture of a whole bunch of paper money. No, not a whole bunch of money, a whole bunch of pictures of a very little bit of money that I photographed, and was going to include some of those. But I didn't, because I didn't think coin photographers photographed paper money. I guess they do. Stamps, that makes sense. Just me, you already sent me a message. Thank you. I will get to it as soon as I can. Let me see. Bill's here. Greetings. Ingolf, hi. Susan, hi. Roy, hi, and congratulations, Roy. Your photography this last month was fantastic. And congratulations. And congratulations, of course, to Graham and to Klaus. Yeah, they round out the top three. Fantastic. High dynamic range is what we're talking about next week. At least one of our sessions. I've been asked about that a couple of times, and it's interesting. It's something that a lot of macro photographers turn their noses up at. But there are actually a few times when it can be handy, and we're going to talk about those. So let me see, Graham. You are here. Good. Congratulations, sir. Well done. Well done, you. Let me see. Who did I not say hi to? Robert. Greetings, my friend. I see that you sent me a message. I haven't had a chance to open it. I've been a little busy today, getting everything done. Ralph, I'll see you in the morning, and it is tomorrow morning, is it? I think so. Might be next week, but whichever it is, I'll see you then. And we've got plenty of time left. I don't know. I must have been looking at the wrong clock. I've got one clock that's right and one clock that's wrong. What do you think about the audio? Is it in any way better than it was, or is it problematic still? I spent ages trying to get it fixed at the weekend, and then was told that I had an echo on Tuesday. Does anybody hear an echo, or is there any issue with it? Somebody will say something. Joseph says stamps are really fun. The way they're printed makes them look like something or other. It's next week. Okay, Ralph, thanks. They're talking about laser beams, which is interesting. I don't know what a white laser is. What is a white laser? I thought lasers were usually colored because of the crystals that were getting excited. Audio is fine, no echo. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Art says it's better too. And yeah, that's nice because I dug out an old microphone that I had given up on and then used ChatGPT to help set up some EQ settings that I didn't understand but seemed to have taken the muddiness out of this microphone, and I kind of like it now. I had to buy a thing called a cloud lifter, which seems like a ridiculous name for a product. I mean, aren't clouds already kind of up there? Not needing to be lifted, I wouldn't think. But anyway, that's what it is. It's a cloud lifter. It's a gain booster for the preamp. Does that help anybody understand what it is? It didn't help me at all. But that's what it is. It gives the preamp a stronger signal to work with, and apparently it works well with OBS. So I don't know what I would do if I didn't have access to these large language models to help me muddle through things that would have taken a day of reading books to get to the bottom of. It's wrong a lot, but it's less wrong than I would have been if I'd just guessed. So anyway, lasers by definition are a single frequency of light. Agreed. So if you had white lasers, it would be all different frequencies of light, and that wouldn't be a laser. It would be something else, a death ray. We could just call it a death ray. Thank you, Susan. I appreciate it. Sound is better. Sound is much better. Are the plosives gone, Graham? I had this thing on the microphone, and yeah, I didn't like it. I don't know why. It was getting in my face. It was putting me off. This sounds like it ought to be fine. Through the headphones it did anyway. Intaglio. It's not pronounced that way, though. It's a silent G, isn't it? Intaglio? Yeah, I don't know what that means. Okay. Joseph comes back with a witty remark here that lasers are, in fact, coherent and can have harmonic content. Ha ha ha! That'll put Zeno in his place. You guys have very high-powered arguments out there in the real world. There are many strange sayings in the world of audio. For example, the term dead cat refers to a wind protection cover for microphones. I have a dead cat. In fact, I think I have both kinds of dead cat, but that's another story altogether. I am going to head out into the woods today and take some photographs. I went out at the weekend and with a macro lens. In fact, with my trusty setup, and actually took some photographs that I rather liked, and that was in a very limited period of time with very few insects, and it made me think, you know what, I could actually get into this macro photography thing. So Thursday's my half day off, and I'm going to take advantage of it and go out in the woods and hopefully bring home fewer chiggers than I did last time, but maybe some photographs. They're still going on about white lasers. Has anybody else ever heard of a white laser? I've never heard of a white laser. Are you sure you're not confusing a white laser with a white blazer? As in either the jacket or what was that football player's name that was in a car chase? Yeah, I can't remember his name, but he had a white blazer, but that was a car. I think that's enough, don't you? David wants me to take the AK diffuser, and I'm going to. I'm also going to take the Platypod Extreme, which I was going to review this weekend and did not get a chance to. I'm so sorry. Robert lent me his Platypod, what, 45 years ago now, and I wanted to get that review done so I could get it back to him, and I didn't get it done, but I'm planning on getting it done. Yep, that's it. Okay, everybody, I'm going to quit 30 seconds early today because I'm itching to get outside. Thank you so much for coming. Have a fantastic weekend. And it was a Bronco, a white. It was O.J. Simpson. It was a white Bronco. It was not a whatever I said it was. See, I just don't remember details like that. Okay, Blazer. It wasn't a Blazer, but aren't they? It is a car, though. I think it is. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. Stay safe and out of trouble. If you're around on Saturday morning, Bud and I would love to have you come by the After Stack. It is really a great way to learn all kinds of tricks about how to do post-processing, editing of your macro pictures. It's really a lot of fun, and I've learned a tremendous amount doing it. We record them and publish them, so that they are videos on my channel. But still, it's great if you come live, because then you can get to talk to everybody. Okay, guys, I'll see you on Saturday. If not, I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for coming. Have a great weekend.